right, so let's talk a little bit about with this flexibility and versatility, the importance of education. And so I'm actually curious, like, I know a little bit, but we grew up in the same area, kind of like, like actually just like 2 cities away from each other. We didn't know each other until almost towards college, but I was a fan of your band and all that, which is more stories from other times.
I find that funny.
But we both kind of came up in that school system, and we were playing outside of school, but now and then we went and we continued our education, and each of us have done different things. But like, how much do you attribute education and actually going out and learning different skills and different styles and all that to your ability to be versatile? Like, does that affect it? Like, if I want to be a versatile player, do I need to go learn a bunch of styles, or do I need to go learn a bunch of harmony?
I think so. I think I would stress listening first off. I think being there's so many different kinds of music to listen to, and even just in one genre of music. I had a friend, a fantastic jazz musician, who told me once about, there's not just one kind of jazz to listen to. He said this when I was younger, and I don't think I really got it at that moment, but you could really
like smooth jazz.
no, just
extra smooth.
I'm thinking like more like the difference between Art Blakey and Cannonball Adderley.
Yeah,
and so listening and having a great depth of listening knowledge, and seeking out new records and different approaches to. Even if it's just like, what, I'm a rock guy, I love rock and roll. Well, there's a lot of different ways to play rock and roll.
Totally.
And being familiar with what those sound like can give you that flexibility and those tools to do that. Now, as far as education, I think that's really important. I know that I've benefited a lot from learning how to play jazz and the tradition of jazz, and which I got really from the school system. Like, I grew up in a household that listened to Bob Dylan and Neil Young and the Beatles and Led Zeppelin and stuff like this.
Which is totally opposite of me. I grew up in a house where we didn't listen. Like, there was no music in the house. So like, so I had to find everything like jazz and everything. Like, all of this was just very new. I was listening to music, but it wasn't like a family thing. Right. So like everything I got, like, for the most part, I would attribute to either education that I got in school, like just in a public school setting, or then my higher education or my private teachers. So like, right. I wasn't listening to anything. Someone had to tell me to listen, period, and you should listen to this. So like, Cannonball Adderley and all that stuff, like it took me till college to like actually even know what that name was. Yeah. And I was still playing jazz in like the jazz band at school, but like I didn't understand it.
Right. I think like studying with people and learning from more experienced players and stuff they could really suggest things and open your ears up to other possibilities, and really teach you some things that you wouldn't even realize is happening, and then to develop those skills. I mean, you have to kind of do that on the gig. You have to get out there and you got to play. You got to put on the records and transcribe, and you got to pick up your instrument and
you got to put in the work, because I think there's a lot of guys.
Right.
And one of the big reasons I ask is there's so many people that kind of. Look at the educated dudes as like not being genuine, or it's like, oh well, they don't get it, like they don't feel it, they don't have the passion, it's all learned, so like, it's for me sometimes it's like I needed that education, and I had a passion for the education just in the same way that I had a passion for the music, but that education is kind of what like gave me the versatility of like being able to branch out, to be able to say yes to lots of different gigs, and like to get excited to like, and me, it's like I can't just like do the cliff notes of. I have a hard time doing the cliff notes of anything. If it's like, if I'm going to learn Afro-Cuban music,
you're going to go full on. I know you get pretty obsessive.
I'm very obsessive.
I'm not excited about the next couple months with you. No.
Those things, like, it all kind of helps shape your voice as not only as a player of when you do behind the instrument, but also how you react behind the instrument. So it's not necessarily being versatile to where I can take a Brazilian gig, or I can go play Afro-Peruvian music, or play flamenco or anything, but certain things that for studying are going to go into your overall voice, so that so I'm not saying maybe on the rock gig it's going like, oh, I got this great Cuban timba thing that like I can throw in all the time, but like but being able to learn to breathe in different styles of music has definitely like changes my reactions. and like, it has allowed me to like, because there's nothing worse if it's like, when someone's just like going like, oh, I've got this giant like, tool belt of grooves and I'm just going to put them anywhere you want. It's like, maybe borrowing a little bit here, but then also just like, when you have that education, knowing when not to use it. Because I think educated players actually, the guys that come strictly out of the school system sometime are, can tell you everything about what's going on, but have no idea how to make something happen.
Right. So there's a balance there of educating yourself and really taking the time to delve into stylistically what can be done in different styles in your instrument. But it doesn't necessarily mean you're going to, or actually where I was going to go with that is that you also need to go out there and play some gigs and just get in the trenches and work those things out so that when you get to, whatever gig you're doing where you get to express yourself and be yourself, like you have all these things to draw on, and you're more you're more flexible. To bring it back around to what we started talking about, you're more flexible by knowing those things. Yeah. I just was going to chime in about you said about saying yes to gigs. I mean, that's something that I did and still do to this day. Yeah. If you call me for a gig, I'm most likely going to say yes. But fortunately, I'm booked a lot now, so I get to say no. Just finally in my career, sometimes I get to say no.
See, that's a whole other thing we could talk about too that we should touch on, because I definitely have some changing thoughts on that too. So let's make sure we talk about that.
Okay,
today too.
Let's hit that.
Yeah, but flexibility and versatility. I think overall we can say it comes from education, and education is like kind of putting bullets in the gun. Just make sure you're firing them responsibility. You're not firing them at all. You're still making good decisions.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean go to school. That doesn't. I mean, not to say like don't go to school, but it doesn't mean like a degree is what's going to get you that, or you went to a prestigious school. Education, you could educate yourself. Yeah, there's a lot of ways to educate yourself. Totally. I just want to put that out there. There's kind of a broader thing than just like I went to whatever.
Yeah,
Berkeley or something.
And they're all great spots, and there's so many great schools now and stuff. And I finished my degree, and I'm happy I did it. People always go like, "Oh, well, does it really matter?" I don't know. Like, what matters for me is I finished what I started, and that was just a personal thing for me.
And you know what? I didn't. So here's an example of two guys on the same gig that have a completely different.
You started like we were both like we were going to two different colleges playing in the big bands at the time. But I finished, but like part of that was me figuring out that was for me personally. Like I don't think it really maybe changed my maybe it changed my career just because of the time and when things happen. I think the most important thing actually being in a college is actually the people you meet.
Right.
And the friendships you make.
Yeah.
Because we were both in college at one time.
It's getting awkward.
Yeah. No, but it's those relationships you build during that time, and I think everybody should don't take the education for granted, because it's going to allow you to be a better listener and have some
right. Don't shy away from that. Like stretch yourself, and you'll find that the thing that you really do want to play, you play better because you tried to do something that you didn't want to play, and you took some things from that.
Yeah,
that's always the case.